Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and life-changing books ever written, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. This isn't just another motivational book. It's a complete system for mastering your emotions, your mindset, your finances, and ultimately your destiny. If you don't have time to read almost 600 pages, this video will give you all the key lessons and tools that have helped millions of people transform their lives. Tony Robbins is one of the world's most famous life coaches and motivational speakers. His clients include presidents, Olympic champions, billionaires, and Hollywood stars. But more importantly, he's a man who learned how to reprogram his own mind and help others do the same. The central idea of this book is simple but powerful. Each of us has a sleeping giant within, a force capable of changing everything once it's awakened. Through conscious decisions, new beliefs, and emotional mastery, Robbins shows how anyone can rewrite their life story. This book is especially valuable for people who feel stuck, tired of living on autopilot, craving control, clarity, and renewed energy. In the next hour, we'll go step by step through Tony Robbins' main principles: how to master your emotions and mental state, how to change limiting beliefs, how to make decisions that truly move you forward, and how to turn your dreams into real, measurable results. Ready? Then let's awaken the giant within you. Tony Robbins opens the book with a powerful statement. It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Most people believe their lives are defined by circumstances, where they were born, who their parents were, what happened to them. But Robbins insists, it's not the conditions of your life that shape you. It's the decisions you make. That's the foundation of the entire book. Every decision, no matter how small, sets your life on a new path. When you decide to start a business, quit a habit, forgive someone, or wake up earlier, that single choice triggers a chain of outcomes that define your future. Robbins points out that most people wish for change, but few actually decide. A decision is not a thought or a wish. It's a commitment. It means burning the bridges behind you and no longer allowing yourself to turn back. It's not "I'd like to," it's "I will," no matter what. True power, he says, comes when your inner resolve becomes stronger than your external circumstances. That's when your inner giant starts to awaken. Robbins suggests a quick reflection exercise. Think of 3 decisions that completely changed your life. Maybe it was choosing your career, ending a relationship, moving to a new city, or starting something from zero. Each of these wasn't luck. It was a conscious moment of decision. Key takeaway: your life doesn't change with time. It changes the moment you make a real decision. Part 2. How destiny is formed: the power of beliefs and emotional habits. Tony Robbins says that if decisions set the direction of your life, then beliefs are the fuel that either drive you forward or hold you back. He writes, "We don't act based on reality. We act based on what we believe about reality." That's why 2 people can face the same situation. One sees opportunity, the other sees a dead end. The difference isn't in what happens to them, but in what they believe about it. What are beliefs? A belief, Robbins explains, is simply a feeling of certainty about what something means. That feeling can come from experience, culture, the words of others, or one powerful emotional event. The problem is that many of our beliefs limit us. For example, "I'm not good at business. It's too late for me. I'm not talented enough." Money changes people. Each belief becomes a filter through which we interpret the world. And as Robbins says, beliefs tell your brain what's possible and what's not. Until you change those inner commands, no amount of effort will change the result. How to change a belief? Robbins suggests a simple 4-step process. Identify the belief that limits you. Question it. Ask, "Is this really true?" Replace it with a new empowering belief. For example, "I'm learning how to communicate and persuade better every day." Reinforce it through emotion and repetition. Because your brain doesn't believe words, it believes what you feel. When you repeatedly experience emotions like gratitude, confidence, and joy, your mind begins to rewire itself to match those feelings. Emotional patterns. Robbins also talks about emotional patterns, the habitual emotions we live in. Some people are constantly irritated or anxious, while others naturally live in peace or excitement. The difference lies not in circumstances, but in which emotions they choose to practice most often. He writes, "If you want to change your life, change your consistent emotions. This is a skill, something you can train. Just like building muscle, you can strengthen emotions like confidence, gratitude, or calmness until they become your default state." Key insight: you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can always control the meaning you give it. And that's how you take charge of your destiny. Part 3. The Power of State. How to control your emotions and trigger any state on demand. Tony Robbins says, "Everything you do is shaped by the state you're in." He explains that emotions are not random. They are states you can generate at will. You can be confident, energized, and focused, or depressed and lost, depending not on what happens around you, but on what you create inside. What is a state? A state is a combination of physiology and focus. Your body and mind are deeply connected. How you move, breathe, and hold yourself directly affects how you feel. Think about it. When someone feels sad, their shoulders slump, their breathing is shallow, and their gaze drops. When they feel powerful, they stand tall, breathe deeply, speak louder, and look forward. Your body dictates your psychology. Robbins often says, "Change your movement, and you'll change your emotion." He teaches people to switch on confidence instantly. Stand tall, take a deep breath, open your chest, smile, and focus on your goal. Within seconds, your brain gets the message, "I'm in control." The power of focus. What you focus on determines what you feel. Focus on what you've lost and you'll feel pain. Focus on what you still have and you'll feel gratitude. Focus on possibilities and you'll find solutions. Robbins gives 3 guiding questions to control your state. What am I focusing on right now? What does it mean? What am I going to do about it? Change your answers and your emotions will follow. Energy and resourceful states. Your state is your power source. When you're in a strong, resourceful state, you can achieve things that once seemed impossible. But when you're in a low or fearful state, even simple tasks feel overwhelming. The secret, he says, is to learn how to enter a powerful state on demand. One filled with energy, confidence, focus, and gratitude. That's what it means to awaken the giant within. Key idea: you are not the victim of your emotions. You are their creator. And at any moment, you can choose a state where greatness becomes possible. Part 4. Pain and pleasure, the hidden forces behind all behavior. Tony Robbins states, "Everything you and I do, we do either out of our need to avoid pain or our desire to gain pleasure. This is the foundation of all human behavior. Even when we think we're acting logically, our choices are guided by 2 invisible forces, pain and pleasure." How it works: we do what we associate with pleasure and avoid what we associate with pain. One person skips the gym because they link it to pain, effort, sweat, discomfort. Another goes consistently because they link it to pleasure, results, confidence, strength. Robbins says, "The person who controls their associations with pain and pleasure controls their life." Most people avoid short-term pain, even if it means long-term suffering. They avoid difficult conversations, new challenges, or changes because it's uncomfortable. But that comfort slowly destroys their growth. The solution: flip the script. Link pain to inaction. Link pleasure to action. If you don't go to the gym, that's pain. If you go, that's pride and energy. If you don't start your dream project, pain. If you take one step forward, joy and power. Once your brain realizes that inaction hurts more than effort, it will move. The practice: pick one habit you want to change. Write down what pain you associate with changing it. Now consciously link pain to staying the same. Imagine the long-term consequences, what happens in 5 or 10 years if nothing changes. Then vividly link pleasure to taking action. How your life improves, how you feel, how people react. This is how you reprogram your subconscious motivation. Why it matters. Until you redefine what pain and pleasure mean to you, your mind will keep repeating the same patterns. True transformation doesn't come from willpower. It comes from changing your associations. Key idea: you can change any behavior by rewiring what you link to pain and pleasure. It's not discipline that transforms your life. It's emotional conditioning. Part 5. Raise your standards, how to turn goals into commitments. Tony Robbins says, raise your standards and you'll change your life. Most people dream of change but never raise their standard. They want more, yet they're still willing to tolerate less. That's why transformation doesn't happen. What is a standard? A standard is the minimum level you're willing to accept for yourself. It's not a dream or a goal. It's what you demand from yourself every single day. Example: one person says, I want to be fit, but their standard is, it's okay to skip the gym when I'm tired. Another says, I work out no matter what. The difference isn't motivation, it's the standard. When you raise your standard, you stop asking, can I? And start asking, how will I? Your brain begins to find ways to make it happen. Turn a goal into a commitment. Robbins writes, a goal becomes real when it turns into a must. As long as it's just a wish, nothing changes. But when you say, this is who I am now, your identity shifts, and so do your results. He gives an example. Someone who says, I'm trying to quit smoking, still identifies as a smoker. But the person who says, I don't smoke, has already changed their identity. So the real shift is not about achieving a goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally lives that goal. You're not trying to be disciplined. You are a disciplined person. You're not hoping to be wealthy. You're someone who manages money with clarity and confidence. The power of inner standards. Robbins says, you don't get what you want. You get what you must. When you raise your internal standards, the world starts to reflect them. You attract different people, make stronger choices, and build new habits automatically. He suggests writing down 3 areas where your current standards are too low: health, money, relationships, and ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to tolerate? What will I start demanding from myself today? Key idea: your life doesn't change when you set goals. It changes when you raise your standards of what's acceptable. Part 6. The Success Formula: how to turn a dream into a real plan. Tony Robbins says, a dream without a plan is just a wish. He observes that most people have dozens of dreams and ideas, but very few ever turn them into clear, measurable goals. Why? Because they don't know how to move from wanting to doing. Tony Robbins' 4-step formula for success. Decide exactly what you want. Most people know what they don't want, but not what they do want. Robbins says, clarity is power. Be specific. Not, I want more money, but I want to earn $100,000 a year doing work I love. Take massive action. Ideas mean nothing without movement. Robbins reminds us, knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. You don't need to see the entire path. Just take the first step. Notice what's working and what isn't. Too many people keep repeating the same actions without feedback. Success is about paying attention to the results and adjusting accordingly. Change your approach until you succeed. Robbins says, if what you're doing isn't working, change your approach, not your goal. Persistence doesn't mean banging your head against a wall. It means staying flexible and creative until you find what works. Why it works. This formula turns dreams into a manageable process. Takes you out of the world of hope and puts you in control. You move from being emotional to being strategic. Visualization and emotion. Robbins emphasizes that emotion is the real fuel of achievement. If a goal doesn't excite you emotionally, you won't follow through. That's why he encourages visualizing, seeing and feeling yourself already living that dream. He calls it mental rehearsal, playing the movie of your ideal life every day, until your mind starts believing it's possible and your body follows through. Key idea: success is not luck. It's the result of clarity, consistent action, emotional intensity, and flexibility. Part 7. Change your identity, and you'll change your life. Robbins says, the strongest force in human personality is the need to remain consistent with who we believe we are. In other words, we always act in alignment with our self-image. If someone believes, I'm lazy, I'm unlucky, or I'm bad with money, their brain will subconsciously look for proof to make that belief true. It will protect that identity even if it hurts them. Why we hold onto the old self? From childhood, we're shaped by labels and rules. What's allowed, what's not, who we are. Over time, those labels turn into invisible walls. We stay inside them because stepping outside feels wrong or not me. Robbins explains, your behavior may change temporarily, but identity lasts. Change your identity, and your behavior will follow automatically. How to redefine your identity? He gives a simple but profound 3-step method. Identify the old identity that limits you. For example, I'm someone who always gives up, or I can't say no. Create a new empowering identity. Not, I want to be disciplined, but I'm a finisher. I always follow through. Not, I want to be confident, but I'm a leader who radiates confidence. Reinforce it through action. Each time you act in alignment with your new self, your brain updates its definition of who I am. Repetition makes it real. Robbins says, real change doesn't come from fighting the old. It comes from building something new that's stronger than the past. The programmer metaphor. He compares the mind to a computer. Beliefs and identity are the code running the system. You can't get new results on old software. Rewrite the code, and the whole system updates automatically. Example: one of his clients said, I keep trying to quit drinking, but I can't. Robbins replied, that's because you still see yourself as someone who tries to quit. Become someone who doesn't drink, and everything changes. Key idea: to change your life, change your story about who you are. Once you shift your identity, new behavior becomes automatic. Part 8. Emotional mastery. How to control your thoughts and feelings. Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. You can have success, wealth, and recognition, but if you live in stress, fear, or frustration, your life won't feel fulfilling. So the ultimate goal is not control over circumstances. It's control over your emotional world. Emotions as messages. Robbins explains that emotions are signals, they're not random. Each one carries a message. Fear says, be alert. Anger says, your boundaries were crossed. Sadness says, it's time to let go. Joy says, you're on the right path. Most people ignore these messages. They either suppress emotions or drown in them. The key, he says, is to listen to emotions, not fight them. 3-step technique for emotional control. Identify the emotion. Name it. The moment you label it, you separate yourself from it. Not, I feel bad, but I feel anxious or I'm irritated. Accept it as a message. Ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Often it's feedback. Adjust your expectations, boundaries, or actions. Replace it by changing your physiology and focus. Straighten up, breathe deeply, move your body, and shift your attention to what you can control. Your brain will follow. Robbins says, you can't always control the first emotion, but you can decide whether to stay in it.
Mastering inné dialogue.
Every day we run a constant conversation with ourselves. Sometimes it empowers us. Sometimes it destroys us. Phrases like, I can't, I'm late again, I'll never make it shape our state. Robbins teaches to upgrade your language. Replace I have to with I choose to. Replace I can't with how can I. Words don't just describe reality, they create it. Emotional metaphor. Emotions are like waves. You can't stop them, but you can learn to surf them. Emotional mastery isn't about feeling nothing. It's about directing the flow consciously. Key idea. Emotions aren't enemies, they're allies. When you understand their message and guide your state, you gain true power over your inner world. Part 9. How to stay motivated and keep your inner fire alive. Tony Robbins says, true motivation doesn't come from fear, it comes from vision. Most people act only when there's external pressure, crisis, excitement, or urgency. But that kind of motivation fades fast. Real, lasting motivation comes from within, from a sense of purpose. The source of inner drive. He explains, energy flows when you have a purpose bigger than yourself. If you act only for personal gain, your motivation burns out quickly. But when your goal connects to something meaningful, something that helps others or fulfills a deeper mission, your energy becomes unlimited. That's what Robbins calls spiritual fuel. The 6 human needs. Robbins identifies 6 universal human needs that drive all behavior. Certainty, the need for safety and stability. Variety, the need for excitement and change. Significance, the need to feel important and valued. Love and connection, the need to care and be cared for. Growth, the need to develop and expand. Contribution, the need to give beyond ourselves. He says, if you want true fulfillment, meet all 6, but especially the last 2. Growth and contribution. Because when you grow and give, you feel truly alive. How to maintain motivation daily. Reconnect with your why. Remind yourself every day why you started. If your why isn't inspiring, change it. Move your body. Robbins often says, emotion comes from motion. Physical movement creates mental energy. Walk, stretch, train, move your body, and your mind will follow. Practice gratitude. Gratitude instantly shifts your emotional state. You can't feel fear or anger while feeling grateful. It's impossible. Contribute to others. When you do something meaningful for someone else, your motivation stops depending on moods. Contribution fuels purpose, and purpose fuels motivation. Quota. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Don't chase instant wins. Focus on long-term progress. As long as you keep growing, your fire will stay alive. Key idea. Motivation fades when meaning disappears. Find your why, feed it with daily action, and your inner fire will never go out. Part 10. Financial mastery, how to manage money and achieve freedom. Robbins begins with a powerful truth. Financial freedom starts not with money, but with your decisions and beliefs about money. He explains that wealth isn't a number. It's a state where money works for you instead of you working for money. Money as energy. He says, money is a reflection of the value you create and share with the world. Wealth flows toward value. The more problems you solve, the more people you serve, the more abundance you attract. But to attract wealth, you must drop negative beliefs about money. Robbins reminds, money is just a magnifier. It makes you more of who you already are. If you're kind, money amplifies your kindness. If you're selfish, it amplifies that too. The 4 rules of financial freedom. Pay yourself first. Save at least 10% of every income before spending a cent. This creates the habit of wealth building for your future self. Build a safety fund. Have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. Security gives freedom. It lets you make choices from strength, not fear. Invest in assets, not impressions. Don't chase shiny things that lose value, like gadgets or status items. Invest in what produces returns. Education, business, real estate, or funds. Think in percentages, not amounts. Wealth isn't about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep and grow. Even small, consistent percentages build freedom over time. The psychology of wealth. Robbins says, financial freedom is not about having more money. It's about having less fear. When money stops controlling you, you gain the power of choice. He suggests defining 3 stages: financial security, basic needs covered; financial independence, lifestyle sustained without work; financial abundance, freedom to give and create. Work toward each level gradually. Momentum matters more than speed. The abundance principle. Robbins emphasizes, wealth begins with gratitude. When you truly feel that you already have enough, you open the door to more, not from scarcity, but from abundance. Key idea: money is not the goal, it's a tool. Master it, and you'll gain not only wealth, but inner freedom. Part 11. The Art of Relationships: How to Create Love, Respect, and Influence. Robbins says, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. You can have all the success in the world, but without deep, meaningful connections, life feels empty. True fulfillment comes from sharing life, not conquering it alone. Love as a gift, not a trade. He writes, love is not about giving to get. It's about giving because you're full. Most people treat love like a transaction. I'll give affection if I get appreciation. I'll care for you if you care for me. But that conditional love is fragile. Real love is a choice, not a reward. You love because that's who you are, not because the other person deserves it. That's what Robbins calls unconditional strength. Masculine and feminine energy. Robbins explains that every person has both masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy is focused, driven, and purpose-oriented. Feminine energy is flowing, intuitive, and nurturing. Modern relationships often lose passion because these energies blur. When both partners live in the same energy, they may get along as friends, but the polarity disappears. If there's no polarity, there's no spark. The key is to honor the difference. Let the masculine lead with purpose, and the feminine inspire with emotion. The art of communication. Robbins emphasizes that conflicts aren't caused by actions, but by interpretations. It's not what someone did, it's what you decided it meant. He teaches 3 simple principles. Seek first to understand. Listen beyond words. Feel the emotion behind them. Express, don't attack. Instead of, you make me angry, say, I feel hurt when. Ask questions instead of assuming. Curiosity dissolves tension faster than accusation. Relationships as mirrors. Robbins writes, relationships are the ultimate mirrors. They show you where you still need to grow. When someone triggers you, it often reveals an unhealed part of yourself. Once you see that, relationships become tools for transformation. Key idea: love deepens not when your partner changes, but when you become the kind of person who can love unconditionally. Part 12. The Art of Influence: How to Inspire Others and Lead with Power. Robbins says, true influence starts with mastering yourself, not others. Many people want respect, followers, or recognition, but real influence begins from within, through emotional mastery and clarity of purpose. You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. Influence equals energy plus authenticity. He explains, people don't follow the one who knows everything. They follow the one who believes, who burns with conviction. Your energy speaks louder than your words. When you're passionate, grounded, and sincere, people feel it. Energy is the universal language of leadership. The 3 principles of influence. Understand people better than they understand themselves. To influence, you must uncover what they truly want. People don't buy products or advice, they buy emotions. Speak the language of values. Don't argue or persuade. Connect your idea to what the person already values. If someone values security, show how your idea supports that. Influence grows when you align with their core needs. Be a living example. The strongest message isn't spoken, it's lived. When your words and actions match, you become magnetic. When you live your truth, You don't need to convince anyone. They feel it. Influence through state. Your state is contagious. If you're calm, confident, and energized, others will mirror you. Before any conversation or presentation, Robbins suggests, stand tall, breathe deep, activate energy, and lead from that state. Leadership as service. Robbins writes, a true leader doesn't create followers, he creates more leaders. Leadership is not about control, it's about contribution. It's about lifting others higher, giving them vision and belief. That kind of influence doesn't shrink people, it expands them. Key idea. Real influence comes from energy, certainty, and service. People don't respond to what you say, they respond to who you are. Part 13. Mission and meaning, how to live on your own terms. Tony Robbins says, success without purpose is failure. You can achieve every goal, earn wealth and respect, but without a sense of why, you'll still feel empty inside. The ultimate goal of personal growth is not just achievement. It's alignment with your mission. It's living in a way that every action feels connected to something greater. What is a mission? A mission isn't your job or title. It's your inner calling. It's knowing that you're here to create something bigger than yourself. Robbins writes, when you have a mission, you stop waking up tired. You wake up inspired. He suggests asking 3 questions. What truly inspires me? Who do I want to serve? How can I use my gifts to make a difference? These answers form your internal compass, the guide for every decision. Living on your own terms. To live on your own terms doesn't mean rejecting society. It means living by your own values, not by others' expectations. When you act from your truth, you stop fearing judgment, because you know your why. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's doing what you choose. Gratitude and contribution. Robbins says that the highest level of fulfillment is gratitude and contribution. When you're thankful for what you have and use your gifts to help others, you experience a deep, peaceful joy that no external success can match. He reminds us, happiness is not a goal. It's a byproduct of giving. Awakening the giant. Robbins ends with a powerful message. The giant within you is not a beast of strength. It's the power of your spirit. When you awaken it, you stop surviving and start inspiring. Key idea. Mission gives you direction. Meaning gives you energy. Gratitude gives you joy. When you align all 3, you become truly free. Part 14. Conclusion, 10 core ideas and awakening the giant within you. Tony Robbins didn't write this book just to inspire. He wrote it to give you the tools to take control of your life. He reminds us, your destiny is not shaped by luck, but by your decisions, emotions, and standards. The 10 core lessons. The power of decisions. Your life changes the moment you make a real decision. Beliefs shape reality. You don't see life as it is, you see it as you believe it to be. Master your emotions. Emotions aren't enemies. They're signals guiding your growth. Pain and pleasure drive everything. Rewire what you link to pain and pleasure, and you'll rewire your habits. Raise your standards. You don't get what you want, you get what you must. The success formula: clarity, action, feedback, flexibility. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start and adjust along the way. Identity defines destiny. Change who you believe you are, and your actions will follow naturally. Influence starts within. Lead yourself first. Your energy and conviction will inspire others. Money is a tool, not the goal. Freedom begins with discipline and the right financial mindset. Mission and gratitude create fulfillment. Growth and contribution are the true sources of lasting happiness. Final words from Tony Robbins. You already are the giant. You just have to awaken it. Decide who you want to be and start living as that person today. The power is not in perfection, it's in responsibility. In choosing your state, your focus, and your meaning. Take one bold, conscious action today, and your life will never be the same. Final message. This book isn't about motivation. It's about transformation. Every page is an invitation to stop watching and start creating your destiny. Which idea will you apply first? Share it in the comments. That's how change begins. And if this video inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more books that transform your mind, your habits, and your life.